If you can go beyond yourself, beyond thinking about yourself as how am I going to personally succeed, or how am I going to make a living, and think about how am I going to serve, how am I going to care for others, I promise you that you'll be stronger. You'll be stronger because you'll be building these skills on how to adapt, how to communicate, how to see into the future, how to problem solve, how to lead. Those skills are great for you whether you're your head of your household or whether you're working for someone or starting your own business. So part of what this entire art project is teaching you how to lead because we know you love. And he literally gave me a piece of that glacier, and I took it in my studio in Antarctica, and I put that glacier on a piece of paper, I put some paint on it, and I just watched it melt. That water that was created by a melting glacier is the same water that literally threatens to drown our beloved city. I was painting the precursor of the horrors to come. And that is what I am bringing to your front yard. I am literally bringing Antarctica, this is water from Antarctica, to your front yard. And as this ice melts, the sea level rises. And when that sea level rises to the elevation of your home, then you will be flooded. And when that sea reaches the number that you're going to draw on this marker, that means Antarctica came to your front door, not as a piece of art, but literally as water. But I just want to keep one timeline in your mind, and that is your city, your community, your kids, the class of 2062. And if you begin to become aware of this now, and it's not like somebody else's problem, but it's your problem, and it's not something that they'll deal with then or they'll find technology then, but something you can begin to tackle now, then I think you're becoming that kind of leader that helps grow the city, but also helps grow your skills. This entire campaign that we're creating is about you understanding what your number means. I created the underwater to help communities, to help your mom and dad, to help you understand your vulnerability to rising seas, but also to give you the tools to be able to solve this problem.
And with the recent king tides and the hottest summer ever on record, we in South Florida are already getting a glimpse of what the future holds as our planet just keeps on getting warmer.
And while scientists say we still have time to stave off the most disastrous effects of climate change if we act now to reduce our emissions, one local artist has made it his mission to make sure all South Floridians know that they must be part of the solution. The underwater is tonight's Don't Trash Our Treasure.
This is the frontier.
All across Miami-Dade County, at every single public park, sculpted markers are being set into the ground. But this is more than just art in public places.
Well, I thought it was a statue at first.
This is a socially engaged project with an urgent call to action.
It's not just about the polar bears or the manatee. It's literally about your wallet. It's about your kids' future. It's about their inheritance. It's about the Miami you love.
This is The Underwater, an evolving installation on climate change conceived by Miami-Dade County artist-in-residence Xavier Cortada, whose first visit to Antarctica in 2007 left him shaken to the core.
Scientists gave me a chunk of ice, put it in my hand, and said, this is going to melt and drown your city. The only place I've called home.
That was it. The fuse was lit for what would explode into this, Cortada's most ambitious project to date.
How do we begin to manage a future with rising seas? If you're not talking about it, if you have your head in the sand, you're not going to solve the problem.
What began as watercolor paintings made with Antarctic ice soon became public murals at intersections throughout Miami-Dade, yard signs that went up in people's front lawns, and finally, these concrete markers being installed in all 287 Miami-Dade public parks.
That Antarctica doesn't care If you believe that sea level rise is happening or not, it is still coming. It's not an ideological issue.
The numbers you see on all of them represent the elevation at that specific location, how many feet above sea level it is in present day, heralding what scientists are forecasting that by the end of the century, if we do nothing to dramatically reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions, great swaths of South Florida will be underwater.
The horrible reality is that more of half of these markers that will survive for centuries, will be submerged in time. What they're creating now is the mold.
We first met up with the artist back in May at the University of Miami's College of Engineering, where students were helping Cortada create the markers.
Well, I'm glad you're making it thick because, I carve deep.
Each one designed by Cortada, then cast using sustainable concrete that won't pollute the water and leave a minimal carbon footprint.
We can also add cement that is made from places that use less energy and consume less CO2.
Dramatically reducing global greenhouse gas emissions is the end game. What Cortada is doing with this is recruiting every single Miami-Dade resident to be a major player. Adam Roberti, who heads the Cortada Foundation, is the team captain.
The idea is not just to raise awareness, but actually having them realize that by the end of the century, if we don't rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, most of Miami is underwater with 7 feet of sea level rise.
So the whole point of the installation is to have the public engage with it. Each sculpture comes with a QR code that when you scan it with your phone, takes you right to the underwater website that explains why this number matters and the actions you can personally take to address the threat of sea level rise in your neighborhood.
Instructions on how to create a yard sign for your own front lawn, links to help you reach your lawmakers and demand climate action now. The whole point is for everyone to take ownership of the crisis.
We can stop using fossil fuels, but we need to be loud because our elected officials need to understand that this is what we want. We want to have a Miami that's here for our children and grandchildren.
Here at Debs Park in South Dade, the elevation is 9 feet. And already, this marker has piqued curiosity.
I ain't think about it like that.
At Deerwood Bonita Lakes Park, the number is 10. And soccer player Eric Viot is concerned.
We wouldn't be able to live out here, do the things that we do every day. So how would we do to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, it's all about you.
So far, only the first 4 markers have gone in. But Cortada is already hopeful.
I just believe that people care. And if you give them the tools to do something weird like I did here, to make people notice, then I think we're going to be okay.
Such a cool project. Cortada plans to have all the markers up in all Miami-Dade County parks by the end of 2024. Other installations will soon be going up in Broward, and the foundation has already begun hosting workshops and meetings at parks to engage the community, to spread the mission and take action. If you'd like more information on the underwater and when it will be at a park near you, scan that QR code. It'll take you straight to the Don't Trash Our Treasure page on local10.com. And he's right. If we're not talking about it, we're not going to find a solution.
Exactly. Well, but what a creative idea.
Yes.
It was so creative.
Because you scan that QR code, you get all the information you need, then you have that conversation with your friends and your family members, and more importantly, you take action. Yes.
Spread the word.
We need that right now.
And if through art, I can just inspire you to tap into that creativity that you hold, if through art I can give you the confidence to express yourself, if through art I can make you a little more curious, if I can pique your curiosity for you to engage as opposed to recoil, then I believe that there's a transformative effect that happens where constituents can demand more of their government. Government can be more responsive, and this social order that we have created, this thing we call democracy, can work.
At the end of the day, we're getting sucked into screens, we're getting disconnected from nature, and we're not seeing the facts and the data, and it is going to hurt millions of people in South Florida and billions around the world unless we get our act together.
But I think we want to put a spotlight in this material that is everywhere, concrete, that we take for granted, that is part of the solution towards climate change and sea level rise.
So it's about you leading and helping your community stay whole like you do every day at this park. Just understand that it's beyond this park. So every time you look at this number 9, I want you to think of you being on a high place, on a high ground, and you just want to defend it. If this Antarctic ice that's in the backdrop melts to the elevation that's on the marker, then that means that that entire area is below sea level. So it's basically a map that tells you when this area will get flooded. The underwater isn't just about helping people understand their personal vulnerability to rising seas, but it's about trying to transform the way an industry creates the materials that hopefully will be done in a more sustainable way so that those seas don't rise as rapidly.
We know that we are ground zero for climate change, and we are setting the standard, developing actionable and scalable solutions. So this is not just art, this is action.
Everything that you see turns blue would go underwater by the end of this century, which is like at the end of your life. So we don't want this to happen, right?
We all see the same problem from very different points of view. And that is a complex issue, because what I think is the right way forward might not be what you think is the right way forward.
I learned about the work that our College of Engineering was doing with sustainable concrete. And that was unexpected.
So I think ideas are important, but translating those ideas into action is the other part of the problem.
This one right here in front of us is our very first one. This class is going to go to a park in Southwest Dade on October 10th. And they are going to join me as we throw a bucket of Biscayne Bay water on it and hope that that's the last time that this marker sees seawater. The underwater has begun those conversations. I know that the impact of the underwater, just through the press alone, but also through the participation and the scale, the amount of individuals involved, has changed the discourse on sea level rise. To work across different disciplines, to work in law and medicine and science, politics and business, to use art in the place where you stand, to use creativity and innovation in the place where you stand, so we can build a world that is more just, more equitable, a world that is more beautiful, one that isn't literally destroyed, blanketed by the pollution of our greenhouse gases, and a more loving, empathetic, caring world that understands that it's not about one individual. It's not even about that one individual's immediate family or that city or that nation state. It's about our relationship to one another across the globe, but also across time, including those people not yet born. Anyone who participates in the underwater should walk away understanding that this is their issue. But more importantly, it's an issue that they can solve. I want anyone who participates in the underwater to understand the problem, but more importantly, for them to know that they are part of the solution, and that in working in society, they can help bring about a better future.
Environmental advocates in Miami-Dade as the county officially cut the ribbon on a new interactive art project designed to raise awareness about rising sea levels.
And Local 10's Trent Kelly was right there for the big kickoff and explains the goal of this unique project.
2 feet above sea level. That is how high the ground is here at Matheson Hammock Park, and the reason you see this large 2 etched in this sustainable concrete marker. This marker just placed here by officials today as part of a massive countywide effort to spark a conversation about our future.
That pedestal serves as a base for knowledge, a place to educate you.
A symbolic celebration in Southwest Miami-Dade as Matheson Hammock Park received its very first marker as part of a socially engaged art project that has an urgent call to action.
Art is actually a way to people's hearts. So facts and figures may be overlooked or discarded, but when you connect emotionally with people, people can really hear the message.
It's called The Underwater, an evolving installation on climate change first conceived by Miami-Dade's artist in residence. His inspiration coming after a visit to Antarctica more than 15 years ago.
Scientists gave me a chunk of ice, put it in my hand, and said, "This is going to melt and drown your city."
What began as watercolor paintings made with Antarctic ice eventually led to the idea for these markers, made out of environmentally sustainable concrete from Supermix to be installed at county parks. The numbers displayed show the current elevation at that location, along with a QR code with instructions on how to create a yard sign for your own front lawn and links on how to reach your lawmakers and demand climate action. The hope is this community engagement will spark a discussion discussion that helps everyday residents take ownership of a crisis that's already being felt.
The thing you value the most, the thing that's worth the most in your life, which is your home, and the person you love the most, which is your child. And if you know that the thing that you value the most is vulnerable and your child isn't going to get it, then you're going to do something about it.
Right now, this project is still in its early stages, so there are only a handful of these markers placed so far, but when it's all said and done, officials hope to have more than 280 of these across every single park in Miami-Dade. Reporting from Southwest Dade, I'm Trent Kelly, Local 10 News.
And the important thing with these markers, because we've covered this on Don't Trash Our Treasure, is that it sparks conversation. If you're not talking about it, you're not solving the problem. You know, if we do nothing to stop global emissions where they are right now, we're facing up to 6 to 8 feet of sea level rise by the end of the century.
That's just
so
crazy
we have to
think
talk about it. We
Yeah.
have to find solutions, and this is urgent. We have to really pay attention.
So this is sparking that interest.
Yes,
Good.
it is.
Beautiful.